Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. We are going to begin in a short while. And as we begin, I would like to welcome you very much to this webinar. My name is Samuel Rere. I shall moderate this webinar. This webinar is brought to you by Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency in collaboration with the Kenya Bureau of Standards and the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service. And joined together here, we shall begin this webinar with welcome remarks from the Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency and the Kenya Bureau of Standards. Then we shall go into the meat of the webinar, the presentations that shall be made, and the discussions that we shall have are led by the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service by Eric Were, and then we shall go into a presentation by Luisa Okanda, and then one from Jared Odongo. So without much ado, I would like to welcome the representative of the Chief Executive Officers of the Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency and Kenya Bureau of Standards to make opening remarks. Welcome, Bwana Charles Tumbo.
Yes, good morning all. Yes, good morning. Yeah, the Managing Director of the Kenya Bureau of Plant Health Inspectorate Services, esteemed exporters, colleagues, good morning. My name is Charles Tumbo. My name is Charles Tumbo from the Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency. I'm representing the CEO of KPROBA today. She's Floyce Mukabana, who has given her apologies. Therefore, I'll read her remarks. This is what she has to say. It is my great pleasure to extend a warm welcome to all participants joining us today for this important webinar organized by the Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency in collaboration with the Kenya Bureau of Standards and the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Services. We are honored to partner with KEBS and KEFIS, two esteemed institutions that play a critical role in upholding quality and compliance standards in Kenya's export sector. I would also like to take this opportunity to sincerely appreciate the MDs for KEBS and KEFIS for their invaluable presence and support today. Your unwavering commitment to strengthening Kenya's export ecosystem is a testament to our shared vision of enhancing the country's competitiveness in global markets. A special thank you goes to all the exporters joining us today. Your participation is vital as we discuss practical strategies to reduce export interceptions and enhance compliance with international trade standards. By working together, we can equip ourselves with the right knowledge and tools to navigate the complexities of global trade, ensuring that Kenya products consistently meet and exceed quality expectations. Ladies and gentlemen, as we set our sights on achieving a 30% reduction of export rejections over the next 2 years, let us use this platform to strengthen our partnership, share best practices, and enforce a culture of excellence in our export processes. This is not just about minimizing interceptions, it's about positioning Kenya as a trusted and competitive supplier in the global marketplace. Finally, encourage all exporters to acquire the Grown in Kenya identity, mark of identity. If you visit our website, the KPROBA website, you'll be able to get it. It's a certification that is available free of charge. This mark not only distinguishes our product, but also raises Kenya's profile on the global stage, enforcing our reputation as a source of high quality goods. Thank you all for being here and look forward to a productive and insightful session. let us all get started. Thank you very much. Yeah. At this moment, yes. So at this moment, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite the Managing Director of Kenya Bureau of Standards to give their remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Keprobo, for inviting us for this meeting. My name is Zakaria Lukorito, and I'm not the Managing Director of Kenya Bureau of Standards. I'm the Director for Standards Development and Trade here at the Kenya Bureau of Standards. And I'm greatly honored to represent our Managing Director, Madam Esther Ngari, who would have loved to be here, but because of other duties, she's not able to join us this morning. Therefore, I go straight into the speech and make the opening remarks by our Managing Director, Madam Esther Ngari. Good morning, esteemed colleagues, distinguished guests, and partners. It is a great pleasure for me to join you this morning and welcome all of you to this important forum focused on enhancing export compliance and improving market access for Kenyan products. I would like to take this opportunity to express my sincere gratitude to each of you for taking the time to join us today. As we know, the global marketplace is increasingly competitive and complex, presenting both opportunities and challenges for businesses looking to expand beyond our borders. In this dynamic environment, export compliance has become not just a regulatory requirement, but a critical enabler of sustainable growth and international market acceptance. At the Kenya Bureau of Standards, our mission is to promote the quality of products and services that meet the highest international standards, ensuring that Kenyan goods can compete effectively on the global stage. We are committed to working alongside businesses, government agencies, and international partners to simplify and strengthen the compliance process, making it easier for our exports to gain access to international markets. Today's session will explore how we can collectively improve export compliance frameworks, adopt innovative solutions, and streamline the necessary processes to overcome barriers to market access. We will also discuss practical strategies that ensure Kenyan products not only meet international standards, but exceed them, positioning our industries for success. We recognize that compliance is a shared responsibility, and as we move forward, KEBS remains dedicated to providing the guidance, tools, and support necessary to empower our exporters. Through partnerships and collaboration, we aim to build a more resilient export sector, driving economic growth and improving the livelihoods of our people. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I encourage each one of you to engage fully in today's discussions. Let us share our insights, challenges, successes, so that we can collectively chart a path towards greater success in international markets. Together, we can ensure that Kenyan products continue to enjoy the recognition and the respect they deserve around the world. Thank you once more again for being here, and I look forward to the conversations ahead. Thank you.
So thank you very much. We really appreciate. Ladies and gentlemen, also now we welcome the MD of Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Services to give his remarks. Thank you. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much for those opening remarks. Thank you, Charles. We've just been informed that for us to proceed, we shall get those remarks as we go into our first presentation or discussion from Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Services. And we shall have Eric Were take us through that presentation discussing phytosanitary certification and compliance to the export phytosanitary export requirements. So I would welcome you, Bwana Eric, to continue with the presentation and also make some remarks as Charles Tubo has mentioned. Welcome very much.
Thank you. I'll not make remarks on behalf of my MD. Let me not make an assumption that that I'll be able to do that. So just allow me to go straight to the presentation so that we can also save on time. I'm trying to share. Let me share the presentation. Right. I don't know whether we can be able to see it now.
Yes, we can, Eric. Please proceed. You could maximize it, put it on slideshow.
Is it okay? I hope it will be able to move the slides.
Now we can
Okay.
see you well.
Thank you. My name is Eric Kwere from KEFIS, and I come from Import and Export and Border Control Department that deals with the phytosanitary issues and also supporting our exporters in that line. Now, in my presentation, I'm going to just to give you an overview of KEFIS, because I don't want to make an assumption that maybe you understand what we do as KEFIS. Then I'll do the phytosanitary certification. Then I'll just give you the basis for export certification. Then I'll take you also through how we normally do our official controls for us to be able to comply to the market requirements, meet the phytosanitary requirement of importing countries. Then briefly, I'll just talk about what we do in the farm inspection. And then maybe just to mention some of our export markets. Then I'll take you through the reason those are requirements that maybe we've faced that are giving us a lot of non-compliances. Then, of course, now I'll just mention something to do with the collaboration with the stakeholders. So that is the outline of my presentation. And to start me off, I'd just like to give you an overview of who KEFIS is. And as KEFIS, we are a state corporation or a parastatal in the Ministry of Agriculture. And then we undertake a science-based phytosanitary inspection, certification, and quality assurance for agricultural inputs and products in order to promote food security and sustainable development. Now, we have a vision which is excellent in plant health and quality assurance in agriculture. Then our mission is just to assure plant health, quality of agricultural inputs, and produce towards a food secure nation. And our motto is that plant health is our business. Our mandate, we have core mandate, and what we are talking about today, or what we are discussing today, will fall under the phytosanitary services that we offer. And also do seed certification, which is also another key mandate that we have, so that we can be able to have the right seeds to the market and give quality seeds. We also offer other services like the laboratory services. That's the one that support us in to support those who are doing food to different destinations, just to assure our trading partners about the food safety. Now, I'll briefly now go to my introduction. let's talk about the phytosanitary certification and compliance to market requirement, is that just for us to be able to understand what phytosanitary and why we do what we normally do to support trade, is that in the international trade, there are various products that are important to countries' economy. And most of these products are agricultural products that normally earn us foreign exchange. Like in Kenya, most of our exports are agricultural products. And one thing that we need to understand is that Kenya and Africa at large, we have been blessed that we have a good land, we have manpower, and we have a good climate that can allow us to grow most of the plants that are required at international markets, especially to our export markets. And one thing is that when we are doing trade in plants and plant products, is that these plants will normally pose a risk. And the risk that they pose is the plants can be used as a pathway to introduce some pests that might not be required in our export market or those countries that are importing from us. So due to the introduction of diseases and pests, then there is always need for us to do phytosanitary certification just to assure our trading. Now, what are the bases for export certification? Number one is that there is need for assurance to our trading partners that any consignment or any goods that we are sending to them that are originating from plants are meeting the phytosanitary requirement. These are the import requirements. And this assurance of the import requirement can only be done by an NPPO. An NPPO is the National Plant Protection Organization in a country. And in Kenya, KEPHIS is the one that, that is recognized as NPPO by the IPPC. Now, and for us to give that an assurance, we normally issue a phytosanitary certificate. And this is the official document that attests that the consignment that we are sending is meeting the import requirements. And these import requirements are normally given after a thorough assessment through pest risk analysis. Then we see whether that particular requirement we are able to meet, or that requirement does not fit to be given to us as an exporting country. Now, our official controls, KEPHIS as a National Plant Protection Organization, it normally undertakes phytosanitary certification to ensure that all the produce that are being exported meet the export requirements of those destination markets. And for us to be able to do this and assure our trading partners, then we have the official control. These are official phytosanitary controls that will be able to guarantee and ensure compliance to exporting countries' regulations. Now, the official controls that we normally put in place, we align them to the requirement of the importing country. And this particular control, official control system that we normally put in place, we normally do it in relevance to the ISPM, the international standard for phytosanitary measures that have been agreed and put in place. So we align ourselves to those standards, and those standards are the ones that guide us on how we are going to set up a system that will be able to guarantee our phytosanitary requirements are met. And apart from us using those international standards, We also have our own national legislations. We have our acts that normally also guide us. For export, we have CAP 319 that normally guide us on what we are supposed to do with the export material. And we also have the act that created KEPHIS, that is the KEPHIS Act of 2012, number 54. That's the one that also now gives us the mandate and us on how we are supposed to carry out this inspection for phytosanitary certification. Now, when we are looking at phytosanitary certification and compliance, we really have items that we need to look at. Number one, we need registration of exporters. How do we know who is exporting? Do we know who is growing products for export? We need to have that registration for us to be able to control and be able to guide whoever that is exporting or whoever that is producing for export, to be able to put all the measures that are required by importing country for us to be able to meet those standards. Two, we normally do farm audits. And for us to do farm audits, then it still requires us to do those registration so that you can be able to plan for a number of farms that you are sure they are doing export, and you can be able to guide them. Then we normally do our inspection. Our inspection can either be done at the farm level and still at our exit point. And for us to be able to do inspection, we normally do sampling. And sampling, we are still guided by those international standards. There are some countries that might require us to do the phytosanitary treatment. I'm sure you've heard of fumigation, and also mangoes and fruits and vegetables. We normally have the hot vapor or hot water treatment. We also have, like, maybe to our destination like Australia, that requires to do the fertilization, which is just making our plants not viable to be vegetatively propagated again. We also offer the diagnostic services, and these are the ones that we put in place. This is done just for us to be able to be sure of what the verdict that we are giving is supported scientifically. We do carry out also trainings, like the awareness that we are carrying out today, for us just to be able to bring to speed all the exporters or all those who are producing for export. Now, the other thing that normally comes handy when it comes to certification is the collaboration stakeholders that can be able to work together. Like KEPHIS, we have to collaborate with quite a number of stakeholders who are supporting the exporters. So those are the one that we really need to collaborate for us to be able to do certification and be able to meet the market requirement and have the right standard going to our market, as it was mentioned during the remarks from the KEPROBA MD and also from now, this is how our official controls looks like. This is just a sketch, the flow of how we do our official controls, how we do our certification for export. Number one, we have the exporter and we have the grower. Remember, I had mentioned about registration of the exporter and registration of the grower. These two need to be registered for us to be able to know it. Now, for the exporter registration, it has to go through the process of them being first registered by the Horticultural Crop Directorate for us to be sure that this one, they are meeting all the requirements for we do registration now with KEPHIS. Now, after registration, then we have to identify where you are sourcing your produce. This is the place of production. Now, when we are at the production, there are two things that we normally look at. There are those products that might require us to carry out sampling and take them to the laboratory for test. For example, if you are doing your to the EU, and other destinations that might require us to check on the maximum residual level of chemicals, then you are required to have a regular sampling being taken, samples being taken to our laboratory for tests. And once we certify that, yes, you are meeting the requirements, then you can be able to proceed and do your export. The other one is about those field inspection. There are some items, some crops that requires to go and do certification in the field. For example, if you are doing herbs, if you are doing sometimes now, like if you are doing roses to the EU, then we need to do field certification just to see whether your farm or the way you've set up your production system is meeting the requirements. Once we are able to ascertain this, that you are meeting the requirement and the you put in place will be able to give us a guarantee or to assure our trading partners that all the requirements have been met, then we allow you to do the export. Now, during the export, once your produce is at the exit point, or even at the farm level, depending on the market that you are targeting, we'll be able to carry out our inspection. And when we are carrying out our inspection, there are normally outcomes. It will either comply to the requirements or it might fail to comply to the requirement. If it fails to comply to the requirement, then we'll give you a rejection notice, and your produce will not be allowed to exit the country to go to the export market. Now, once your product is rejected, then we have to start again the process of going back to your farm, going back to your systems to verify whether your system are still intact and where are the gaps and how can you fix those gaps. So that's how we do that. That's how we put the system for us to be able to do phytosanitary certification and assure compliance to the market. Now, in case that your product now has been able to meet the requirement, then it will proceed to the export and be exported, and it will be issued with a phytosanitary certificate. And as I'd mentioned before, the phytosanitary certificate is just an assurance that your produce has the requirements. But remember, we are only taking a sample of your produce. And if we take that sample, is the one that gives us the confidence and give you that phytosanitary certificate. On landing on the other end, on the importing country, the importing country will still also take you through another inspection. And when they take through inspection and your produce meets the requirement, then it will be released into the market. If it will not meet the requirement, then as a country, we receive notification. And those notifications are the one that we are talking about meeting the market requirement and reducing the non-compliance. So those notifications are the one that we receive once we have an uncomplying consignment. For example, we have a requirement that our roasted flour, once they leave the country, they should be free of false codling moth, FCM. And on landing on the other end during the inspection, then any live stage of that pest is detected on our produce, then it means our produce did not meet the market requirement. Then we'll have those notifications. Maybe when it comes to food safety, it lands on the other end when it is sampled and tested for residual level of chemicals, then they don't meet, they fail, then we are also notified. And those are some of the non-compliance that we talk about. Now, the moment we get those notifications, we have again to start back and go to your farm and do our system audit to check whether your farm has any gaps in the system that cannot be able to guarantee us market requirement. So once we evaluate you and we see that now you've been able to fix, you've been able to put corrective measures in place for us to be able to meet the market requirement, then we'll allow you back again into the system for you to be able to export. Now, that's just a brief on how our phytosanitary certification and market compliance is performed by KEPHIS. Now, just an example of farm inspection and how we also do our system audit for places of production. Like this one is a rose cut flower farm, and all the farms that are growing for export, you are required to establish a control system of all the pests. Then KEPHIS will normally undertake a quarterly farm inspection and farm audits just to assure our trading partners that that the systems are in place and the products that are coming from our country are meeting the requirement. So these farm audits, we just normally do it for us to be able to put everything in place and just to confirm that the phytosanitary measures that have been instituted at the farm level can be able to assure compliance with the EU requirements in any other market. Now, farm audits, they are also guided by various tools that have been developed by KEPHIS. We have the SOPs, we have the work instructions, and we've also developed some manuals together with the industry, in collaboration with the industry, for us to be able to guide the growers on what they are supposed to do. Like right now, we are very much aware that come 26th of April, there's a new regulation will come into place that will be effected from that date. And this new regulation is all about the FCM, the force calling moth, and it has very stringent measures that we are supposed to put in place. And for Kenya, we chose the system approach because that's what we can be able to meet and guide our farmers. So that's how we go about it when it comes to farming. And at the exit point, still being one of the control points that we do for us to be able to meet the phytosanitary requirement, is that at that inspection point, at the exit point, we normally do sampling, and the sampling is guided by the ISPM number 31. But in case we suspect or we see that your product might be having an issue, we normally increase the sampling size for us just to be able to be sure and assure our trading partners that indeed when we are giving the phytosanitary certificates, we've been able to inspect, check, that it is meeting the requirement. Now, the exporters are categorized into levels. Those are 3 levels that we've categorized our exporters for us to be able to do the inspection. We have that are doing low risk, we have the medium and the high risk. Those ones that are been classified as high risk are those ones that have had quite a number of non-compliances, and their system might be having issues. So those ones are normally placed as a high risk, and we normally do big volumes, or we increase the sampling percentage. That's the way EU, the sampling percentage for Kenya from 15 to 25 because of our non-compliance. So we normally also use the same. When we are doing our exit inspection, we are doing our farm inspection, and we find there's quite a number of non-compliances, we normally profile that farm, or we profile that exporter into either low, medium, or high. Now, this assignment will be based on those low, medium, and high risk, how much we sample. The non-complying products will always be rejected. And the moment they are rejected, then we have to do a follow-up of the farms And we also restrict some of the farms that have had quite a number of non-compliance. And once they put the corrective measures in place and they might not be working, they are still having non-compliance, we normally restrict so that we can be able to protect our export market. Now, some of our export markets that still pose an opportunity for us to explore, we have EU, which is our biggest market. We have the UK, we have the UAE, we have Australia, and Australia, there are also some requirements that are really, that exporters are really still trying to meet, because they also have very stringent measures, and they have quite a number of pests that considered as regulated in Australia. We also have the USA as some of the markets that we need also to continue exploring. We have South Africa still taking some produce from us. We have Russia and the entire Eurasia Economic Union, who are still also an area that we can still explore. We have China as a new entrant. Then we have also Malaysia that are still our products. And also not to forget Jordan and India that are now also incoming markets for Kenya. Now, when we talk about the produce that we are exporting, we have the cut flowers, and most of the cut flowers that are being exported, we have the rose cut flowers, carnation, and the summer flowers. But the big percentage of what we export flowers is rose cut flowers. Then we also have fruits that we also export, and we have vegetables, quite a number of them. Then we also have herbs. That is also another area or another fresh produce that we do export. Now, when it comes to market requirements, because it's the market requirement that will guide any exporter or any NPPO on what they are supposed to check in terms of compliance or in terms of phytosanitary certification. So phytosanitary certification is all dependent on market requirements. Now, when you look at the UK, they have the regulation that is open to anyone. Anyone can be able to get it even from their website. And this is the regulation UK, the Kenya Plant Health Phytosanitary Condition Amendment, EU Exit Regulation 2020. And we also have the EU regulation, which is 2019-2072, which has also been revised, or some of them have been changed, as we'll see later in my other slides. We also have US that you have to get those the requirements from the APHIS compliance. Then we have the Australia, which also have quite a number of requirements for market. We have Dubai, we have China. In China, we have a bilateral agreement that we've done for us to be able to access their market. Then, of course, as I'd mentioned earlier, we also still rely on our own act that also guide us on how we are supposed to achieve compliance to market requirements. Now, there are new requirements for roses that have just been we were notified of. This one will take effect from 26th of April, as I'd mentioned earlier. And in this new requirement is that it has really introduced very, very strict requirements for rose cut flowers. And this one is really worrying because it might be very, very stringent on us, and it might also affect the volumes that we are able to push into the EU market. But if we are able to meet those requirements, if all of us, we work together and we meet those requirements, then we can be able to sell more to the EU. Now, in summary of those requirements that EU has just put in place, the one that is coming into effect from 26th of April, is that if you look at A, about Kenya being free, a country of origin, being free from FCM or a particular pest, then the produce originating from an area in the country. Now, when you look at the two, we cannot be able to confidently say we do not have the pest in the country. Neither can we say that there's a particular area where we don't have a pest, so that anything that or any rose cut flower that has to go to the will be produced in that particular area. Now, the other two requirements that we are able to meet is requirement C and D. Now, when it comes to C, we supposed to establish a place that is pest-free. And for us to be able to do that one, it also requires us to invest a lot. We've been able to do it in capsicum. When it comes to rose cut flowers, it might take a lot of time for us to be able to confidently say that now all our greenhouses are free of this FCM. Now, the requirement that we saw fit as KEPHIS together with the industry, that we can be able to effectively implement and meet the requirement. And these are ones that say this has been subjected to effective post-harvest treatment to ensure freedom from. Now, this post-harvest treatment is the one that we talked about, the phytosanitary treatments, which can be either, for rose cut, we can be either do the fumigation or we do any other treatment that can be able to assure the market that the FCM has been eliminated. But for this particular one, as a country, we decided to select the second part of it, which is an effective system approach to ensure freedom from FCM. So this we are implementing currently as a country, and soon, maybe starting next week, we might be auditing the farms for us to be able to give them the codes. Now, with this particular one, for effective system approach, then you're also required to code all your production sites. So all the production sites for rose cut flowers will have to be coded. And the coding only comes once you've been able to audit and check for that the system approach in that particular production site is working and can be able to assure our trading partners that the FCM will not be found in our consignment. We also have non-compliances that we've still received on the same FCM now on capsicum. And now on capsicum, we've gone for C, which is pest-free places of production, which we are now implementing. Now, still on capsicum, we still have another pest that was also listed as a quarantine pest, which is Bactrocera latifrons. Luckily, in Kenya, we do not have this particular pest, so we are able to declare that the place of production where we are doing, it is free of that particular pest. Now, just to give you an overview of how we fared on in terms of non-compliance. Remember, we are talking about certification and compliance to the market requirement. And that's why we really need all of us to be able to collaborate. If you look from 2020 up to 2025, is that the blue one is about the documentation. And this documentation is where maybe a consignment leaves the country. By the time it gets to the destination, it is missing a phytosanitary certificate, or maybe the produce is less than what declared, or the produce that had been declared on the phytosanitary certificate is not what is presented for inspection, or you find that maybe there are some changes in the export, in the importing, the consignee maybe has changed some of the details, and they are not matching what the other NPPO has in the. Now the blue is the red one is the harmful organism, and if you can see, the harmful organism is the one that is giving us a high threat to our market, and the one that is making our sampling percentage to be increased. Now, if you look from 2020, it's only in 2021 that our harmful organism non-compliance was low, but 2022 it went up to 93, and most of these in 2022 thrips, and in 2023 we also had the same, and 2024 most of what was intercepted was FCM and thrips. And right now, 2025, our compliance level, we are standing at 11 harmful organisms. Out of 11, we have 6 that are due to FCM. So you can see FCM is still a trouble to our market compliance. Now, when you look across the table that the graphs that I'm sharing, you'll find that we are normally troubled by the first 5. From my left hand, we have the FCM, we have the thrips, we have the armyworm, then we have the white flies, and leaf miner. Those are the most pests that have really affected us from 2020 to 2024. So when we talk about meeting the market requirement, it's all about how do we ensure that these pests are not on our produce at the time we are exporting. Now, what are some of the implications of market requirements? Those stringent market requirements. Number one is that we have to appreciate that the market requires compliance and investment to achieve this compliance. So we cannot be able to achieve compliance if we do not really invest in it and we don't give it enough time. So we have to give ourselves enough time, we have to invest our time, we have to invest our money into meeting the market requirement. For example, like if we have to meet the requirement against F, then we really need to invest into facilities that can be able to guarantee us that at the end of the day, the pest will not be found on the produce that is coming from those facilities that have been approved to produce. Now, we also need to understand that if we do not put produce in the market due to non-compliance, someone else will do it. And when someone else does it, then it means you've been replaced in the market. So we really need to put efforts to ensure that our space in the market is maintained, our space in the market is intact, and we are expanding the same market. Now, once that is lost, it's not very easy for us to get it. It will be very costly for you to get it back. Now, uncertainty and unpredictability normally hurts the market and sustainability. Now, you can imagine that the moment we get non-compliance, then it means we have to stop some of our exporters from selling, and that one brings uncertainty. Cannot be able to predict when Kenya will be able to put their product back to the market. For example, if EU will have to give us more stringent measures and maybe suspend some of our our producers because they are not meeting the requirement, or suspend Kenya, then it becomes uncertain. People will not be able to really rely on our product. So that's why we really need to put efforts for us to be able to meet these market requirements. The other thing is that adapt and implement common approach as a country to ensure compliance. So as we discussed today, let us look at what is the common approach that we can be able to put in place as a country. We can be able that all of us as exporters can be able to adapt for us to be able to ensure that compliance is guaranteed. Without that common approach, then we might not be able to meet the requirements. If anyone has an idea or anyone has something that is working for them, then it will be important and it's advisable that you also share with your neighbors, you share with all of us for us to be able to meet the market requirement. Because the market belongs to the country, and you lose, it will not be saying that so and so, such and this company was meeting the requirement, so we can continue allowing them to bring. It will be about Kenya now, not you as an individual exporter. Now, we normally, as KEPHIS, we also have a collaboration with the industry. Like what we are doing today is a collaboration that we are having with other government agencies. And KEPHIS normally carries out regular awareness and training on export requirement. We normally call exporters, we tell them what are the new regulations that are coming into play, what are they supposed to do. And there are also forums that normally bring together regulatory agencies and private sector representatives just to discuss matters like what we have the Horticulture Authority that normally bring all these players together for us to be able to discuss the compliance level of our country and what we need to do. Then when there are changes in the export requirement, KEPHIS will always communicate to the industry through various channels, through the umbrella bodies, through the emails. And right now we also have WhatsApp that is bringing together all the rose cut flower experts, and we are able to communicate any development through that particular one. And with that one, I'll end my presentation and say thank you so much for giving me here. Thank you, and back to you, Rere.
Thank you very much, Eric. Thank you for the detailed presentation. And we have seen quite some feedback coming through on the chat facility. Thank you all for participating there. And I would ask Eric to try and respond with the chat facility as we continue. At the end, if we find some little time, we can try and revisit some of those questions in terms of response, but we shall respond as we go along. So I would like to now ask our next presenter, Luisa, to come up and continue the presentation, raising the bar, meeting market standards for fresh and dried produce. Karibu sana, Luisa.
Thank you very much. And I'm really delighted to be giving you a presentation today. If you have any questions concerning my presentation, kindly drop it in the Q&A facility or the chat box, and I'll be able to answer it afterwards. Kindly allow me to turn off my video and I can be able to proceed with my presentation. I'm presenting raising the bar meeting the market standards for the fresh and agricultural products for export. As you have heard, my name is Luisa Okanda Makoha. I'm currently a senior inspection officer working at the Namanga border, but for the better part of my work at Kenya Bureau of Standards, I've been a quality assurance officer. So just a brief overview about the KEBS regulatory framework. So KEBS was established under the Standards Act, CAP 496, which established KEBS as the national body responsible for preparation and implementation of standards for all products. And this includes food and also the agricultural-based products from food. Then it also provides the legal framework for the development, promotion, and application of standards in the country. So our mandate, one is the standardization services. We are able to come up with various standards, us together with the various industrial players, which is basically, it can be the manufacturer, if it's the exporters, the MSMEs, the large manufacturers also, to be able to develop standards that now will be able to be used to ensure there'll be conformity services. So also when it comes to conformity services, we issue various permits. One, we have the standardization mark, which is a mandatory mark for all locally manufactured food products. Then we have the diamond mark of quality, which is the mark of excellence. The other product we have that is in line with the conformity assessment, we have the food fortification logo, which is a compulsory and mandatory mark for all products of public health concern. And this includes products like salt, wheat flour, maize flour, edible oil. Then the other one is facilitation of trade through also the standardization mark, offering the standardization mark. Then also we offer, we have information services, then we also do training and education. And through this training and education, we also train MSMEs. We also train any person who would want any information in regards to maybe trade. We also do these training services. So just a brief overview of why is agricultural export important to Kenya's economy. One is that it's a major contributor to the foreign exchange earnings. We know that agriculture is the backbone of Kenya's export sector with key products such as tea, coffee, and various horticultural produce. The other one is employment creation. The agricultural export sector provides direct and indirect employment to the millions of Kenyans. This ranges from farmers, processors, the transporters and exporters. Then the other one is market diversification and trade balance. We see that this export, the agricultural export, assist in diversifying Kenya's trade portfolio, and enable us to reduce dependence on imports and providing the country a trade balance. Then rural development and poverty reduction. Since a majority of the Kenyan farmers are residing in the rural areas, the exports from agriculture provide a stable source of income, improving their living standards, reducing poverty, as also the household income level also increases. So we find that these communities are empowered economically. Then the other one is also food security and sustainability. While export agriculture primarily maybe serves the external markets, the revenue that is generated supports the domestic food production, helping sustain the local food safety programs and agricultural development projects in the country. So what are the market trends and opportunities when it comes to these agricultural products? So we find that the top export destinations we have is the Middle East, Asia, United States, and Europe, as our presenter from KEFIS had also enlightened us. Then when we also see now that we have these export destinations, what are the growing trends? What are the opportunities for you as now an exporter or a producer or an MSME or a large manufacturer? You can be able to tap into. We see that there is a rising global demand for these healthy and natural foods. We're now seeing that consumers are increasingly shifting towards the natural, organic, the minimally processed foods. So you can see that it's now giving demand for now the organic and sustainable farming being on the rise. And you can also find that countries such as the Europe and the USA, they now have very strict organic certification requirements, the EU organic and the USDA organic. And also you can be able to find that there are consumers who prefer the chemical-free and fair trade and eco-friendly products. So these are a niche market, and these are markets that you can be able to tap into, so that you also can also be able to export your product into this market. Then the other one is also traceable supply chains, and also in line with a supply chain that is resilient, in line with also the increasing demand for food security. So you can see that many buyers need to now diversify their supply chains to African countries. And you see that the opportunity that is here is that for you to be able to position yourself as a stable supplier of agricultural products, you will be able to attract long-term contracts with, let's say, the international buyers. So those are some of the growing demand. Also, the pesticide-free produce, in that you find that there are some consumers and also there are some countries in that for you to be able to now export the product there, they would prefer a pesticide-free produce. So those are the opportunities that are now in the agricultural sector. So what the market standards for fresh and dried agricultural produce? I will just give a list of them, then I'll be able to explain them in detail in the next slides. So one, we have the international market standards. Examples of these standards we have is the Codex Alimentarius. We have the GAP, then we have the HACCP, we have organic certification. Then for regional and country-specific standards, we find that each country has its own specific standards that you need to be able to ensure that you meet. So you find that the requirements maybe in the Gulf countries will be different from the ones in the European Union countries, and also be different from the one in the United States of American countries. Then also African markets, you find that also in the African markets, we have specific standards. Like within the East Africa, we have the ESC standards that encompasses all the countries in the East African community. Then you also have the COMESA standards. So you find that for you to be able to export your product to this country, you need to be able to ensure that you meet the requirements of this country-specific standards. Then also we also have the labeling and packaging requirements. In that, it's a detailed requirement that I'll give you a list of all the information that needs to be on your label for you to be able to at least export your product to different countries. So now for the international market standards, we have the Codex Alimentarius standard. So you find that this standard is basically like an internationally recognized standards for the food-based products. So you find that it gives information on the maximum residue limits for pesticides. So it has a limit on the chemical residues in the food product. Then also the general principles of food hygiene. What should you do to ensure that, what are the principles that you need to ensure in that the place that you're, let's say you're doing the packaging for your products, how is the hygiene of the place? What are you using the food grade cleaning, maybe the food grade cleaning, the cleaning, maybe the detergents, is it food grade? Are you using clean water that has maybe been tested? What is the form of the, like, let's say the table you're using, is it made of stainless steel? Because you find that when you're able to meet these general principles in the food hygiene, of course, it will be able to ensure that your handling, your processing, and the storage facilities that you have are all in line with the international market standards. Then the other one is also mycotoxin limits, controlling aflatoxin and ochratoxin in dried produce. And you'll also see that, like for example, for aflatoxin, for the total aflatoxin, the limit is 10 parts per billion. for most of the products, and also 5 parts per billion. So what traceability chains do you have in place to ensure that you're able to now control this mycotoxin level in your product? Then the other one is also how the food additives and contaminants. I find that the Codex Alimentarius standard has a whole standard, has a standard on the food additives and also on the contaminants. What are the acceptable limits when it comes to maybe the food preservatives, and what are the food preservatives that you can be able to use when it comes to also processing your product. So you can find that also this Codex Alimentarius standard is applicable to the dried fruits. Maybe you have dried mangoes, the spices, let's say cinnamon, ginger, turmeric, the nuts, walnuts, pistachio, roasted peanuts. Then you have various cereals like dry beans, dry whole peas, dry pigeon peas. We have vegetables. Is it dried vegetables? Is it now the dehydrated vegetables? And also I had already mentioned the spices. Then good agricultural practices, commonly known as GAP. So you find that GAP ensures safe, sustainable farm practices and quality agricultural produce. And we have the global GAP certification, which is always a requirement when you want to export your products to the EU and also the high-end markets. So you find that also the Kenyan GAP is like a local version aligned with the international GAP standards. And this GAP, the key focus areas is the safe pesticide use and also the withdrawal period. What is the the pesticide harvesting interval? After how long are you going? After how long or after what is your schedule, or after now you have already harvested your product, in that now you can be able to use it. You need to be able to have the pesticide harvesting interval. And then the proper irrigation and water management. Is the water you're using, is it also safe? Then the post-harvest handling to prevent contamination. In that you find that there is a lot of post-harvest losses, and also post-harvest handling, in that if you're handling your product in a manner that is not safe, you can be able to contaminate your product, and this in turn will also affect the shelf life of the product, and it might also affect maybe the consumer, in that they can be able to also suffer from, let's say, foodborne illnesses. Then also worker hygiene, in that any person that is handling your product, or any person that is handling your product during the production step, they need to adhere to the hygiene requirements. They need to have their hands washed. They need to have the correct PPEs. And just in case someone is, let's say, sick, maybe they have they're coughing, you can be able to ensure that they don't handle the product until they have recovered. And also in line with the food industry, at least you should ensure that anyone working in the premise should be tested and have a valid medical certificate. And also traceability, in that you can be able to trace the product all the way from let's say the type of seed that you're able to use, who handled the product, and what let's say during the processing, if you're doing maybe, let's say, dried produce, if you had stored the produce for some time, what was the temperature of the storage, in that you're able to ensure that you don't get, let's say, you don't get the chill burns and the freeze burns on your product. And also during the production time, what was the general environment? Was it a clean environment, to ensure that whatever that goes out in the market has met the standards? So it's applicable to both the fresh and the dried fruits, vegetables, grain, nuts, and herbs. And it is important, the GAP certification is often a prerequisite for export contracts, and especially in Europe. Then organic farming, you find that for markets that demand organic produce certification standards, you find that we have the AU organic EC 834/2018, basically for the European market. Then you have the USDA organic, which is a national organic program in the USA. Then in Kenya, we have the Kenya Organic Agricultural Network. If you're producing And if you want to, let's say you want to label your product as organic, you need to be able to also have the certificate from COAN, the Kenya Organic Agricultural Network, in that they can be able to now ascertain the traceability all the way from the type of soil that you use, the type of seeds that you use. Of course, you did not use any pesticide during your production, during the processing period. And you find that when you're not using, for you to get that certificate, you need to be able to adhere to the sustainable soil and biodiversity practices, and also no synthetic pesticides or fertilizers. And also you can do the regular audits and traceability. And you find that there's also a growing demand for organic farming. A lot of consumers are actually leaning into the organic-based products. And for you to be able to tap into the market, at least you need to be able to know that you need to adhere to the organic farming requirements. So, and also when you have this organic certification, you can be able to access the premium priced markets in the USA, Europe, Japan, and also let's say locally, if anyone would also want to consume the organic based products. Then for the African markets, Kenyan exporters must comply with the EAC standards. You find that these EAC standards are harmonized standards within the East African region. And we find that these standards, they align with the Codex Alimentarius standards, and also the, let's say, the Kenya Bureau of Standards, which is the national regulatory body. So it's like how it holds, we are like the custodian for the standards. So we have examples of standards. We have the Kenyan standard, East African standard 946/2023, which is the dried food specifications that will be able to guide you on how, on like what is the moisture content requirement for the various dried fruits. And it also the scope of the standards will be able to it guides you on what do we mean when it comes to dried fruits. And then the other one, we also have the COMESA Green Pass certification, which also facilitates the intra-African trade. So you find for you to comply with the EAC standards, it's important because it's easier for you to trade with other regional partners like Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, and Ethiopia. You find that for you now to be able to export your product to, let's say, a country like Tanzania, you will need to be able to get certified by Kenya Bureau of Standards. And once you get the valid standardization mark permit, it will read the product name, let's say it's dried apples or dried mangoes, and the standard, it will be the Kenyan standard EAC, because now that standard is recognized in Kenya and also recognized in Tanzania. So you'll find that the Tanzania Bureau of Standards will just look at the permit, and because once you have a valid permit, you can easily trade within the East African region freely. So other examples of standards that are in line with also the agricultural based products, we have the Kenyan standard, East African standard 1107/2024, which is a code of practice for the production, handling, and processing of dried fruits and vegetables. Then we also have product specific standards. I was not able just to quote a few. We have one on the fresh chili pepper specifications, which is the KES EAS 332/2022. Then we have the one for fruits, EAS 946/2023. We have a Kenyan standard, which we have not harmonized in the East African region, which is the KES 435/2018, which is for the dehydrated vegetable specifications. You find that if maybe you're farming your spinach or the traditional vegetables and you want to export them, you first have to dry them, dehydrate them, then I can be able to now, you have to dry them, then I can be able to now export them as a dehydrated vegetable thing, that now the consumer will just be able to add water into them and now be able to cook and use according to maybe the instructions that you had be able to indicate on your, let's say, your product label. Then we have the code of hygiene. This one cuts across any facility that is handling any food or any drink. So it's called the KSES 39/2024, in that it guides on the different things you're supposed to follow for you to be able to ensure that you produce your product in a safe environment. Then you also have the Kenyan standard, East African standard 1041/2022, the dried cassava leaf specification, which is basically a delicacy in the Rwanda, Burundi, and the Congolese countries. Yes. Then another standard, another international, for you to be able to also at least meet international standards, you need to be able to tap into the hazard analysis critical control points, which is a 7-step food safety management system that prevents contamination and ensures consistent quality in your agricultural and dried produce. Because now that you have been able to identify the hazard, let's say it's a biological hazard like a mold. I know most of you know what a mold is, or a mycotoxin, or maybe let's say it's a chemical, let's say it's a pesticide, or it's a heavy metal, or let's say it's a physical matter, like let's say hair, pen, maybe stones or soil. You now need to be able to identify what will be my critical control points so that I can be able to reduce this hazard, either reduce it or remove it completely. So maybe you can have like things like maybe at the drying process, what are the temperatures and the time that you're drying? Then moisture control, at what point and what moisture percentage you'll be able to have to ensure that no biological hazard can be able to thrive, no microorganism can be able to thrive and be able to multiply in that environment. How are you storing your product? Is it aseptic packaging? Are you doing hermetic sealing for you to be able to ensure that you are able to reduce the hazard or and then also monitoring and corrective action. Are you doing regular testing for your product? Are you doing audits? Are you doing documentation for your product? Because you find that in the food processing chain, you need to find that documentation is one of the key aspects, and it's one aspect that will also aid in your traceability system. So you find that this it cuts across to all food exports, especially dried produce, cereals, and all processed agricultural produce. So you find that it's also mandatory for exports to the EU, USA, and the Gulf countries. And then ensuring compliance for the Kenyan agricultural exports. For you to be able to succeed as an exporter, you need to try and follow the codex, the HACCP, the good agricultural practices standards for safety and quality. Then also obtain the necessary certifications, the Global GAP certification, the organic certification, HACCP certification, halal if you're transporting it to the Middle East countries. And then you also need to adhere to the maximum residue levels for pesticides, aflatoxin limits, and also the food hygiene laws. Then you need to meet the country-specific requirements. You might find that what is mandatory in the Gulf countries may be different from what is mandatory in the EAC countries or the EU countries. And also ensure proper labeling and packaging. So on the labeling and packaging, I find that regardless of your destination, the dried and agricultural produce must meet the strict labeling and packaging guidelines. One, in that you need to indicate the product name. What is your product name? Is it dehydrated spinach? Is it dried apples? Is it peanuts? Is it cashew nuts? And then what is now your brand name? Then what is the country of origin? Most of the time we indicate a product of Kenya or a produce of Kenya. Then what is the net weight? Is it 10 kgs? You need to be able to use the SI unit. So is it in kgs? Is it in grams? Then you need to put the production date and the expiry date. Then the batch number, and also batch number basically for traceability. Then the storage conditions. Should it be frozen? Should it be stored in a cool, dry place? Should it be stored, let's say, in a frozen state, or you need to be able to clearly indicate that on the label. Then now the certification logo. If you have maybe the organic certification, you can indicate on the product label. If you have the halal certification, you can also indicate it on the product label. If you have the Global GAP certification, you can also indicate it on the certification. If you have the KEBS logo, you indicate it on the product certification. And you'll find that now, like for the KEBS logo, you need to indicate if it's the S mark, you need to indicate it clearly right below the S mark logo. And then if it's for the diamond mark of quality, you also need to indicate it right below the diamond mark of logo. So it is important to have this label and packaging requirements, because failure to meet these requirements can lead to your export being rejected at the border points. So why is it important to meet the market standards? One, it ensures product quality and safety. The other one, it enhances competitiveness in international markets. Then compliance with the importing country regulations, so that now your product will not be stopped at the border point, and also protects the consumer health and build trust, in that a consumer will go on buying a specific brand because they have built trust in your product. Thank you. And just a closing remark, in that to compete globally, we must not only meet the standards, but try hard to exceed the expectations, that you can be able to stand out as an exporter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luisa. Thank you very much for that enlightening presentation. And because as I look at the time running out very fast, I'd like to ask Jared to come and be ready to continue with his presentation. Jared, are you ready? He shall talk about leveraging on the WTO and technical WTO TBT framework to overcome export challenges. So, Bwana Jared, karibu. Hello, can you hear me?
Sorry, you are very low. I can't hear.
Can you hear me now?
You are very low still.
Okay, Jared, please take it away. Continue.
Can I share my screen?
Please do, continue.
Are you able to see my screen? Kindly confirm.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. My name is Jared Odongo from Kenya Bureau of Standards. Yeah, I'm a principal trade officer handling the WTO TBT National Inquiry Point. My topic is going to be on leveraging the WTO TBT framework to overcome export challenges. The coverage will be introduction, understanding the WTO framework, common export challenges, how the WTO framework addresses export challenges, the role of WTO in supporting developing countries, then a brief case study. Strategies for exporters to maximize the WTO framework, and conclusion. The introduction bit, the global trade landscape currently is a little bit complex, and exporters face quite numerous challenges, including tariff barriers, non-tariff barriers, and shifting market dynamics. Then the WTO organization provides a global framework for resolving some of these issues and promoting smooth international trade flows. In this presentation, we'll cover a little bit of how the governments and businesses can leverage on the WTO framework to overcome export challenges. Now, we understand this aspect that Kenya Bureau of Standards and the WTO have to work in sync in order for businesses to find a smooth trade. Now, as Kenya Bureau of Standards, remember we are a quality institution. So let's talk of trade standards and quality. KEBS is responsible for setting and enforcing national standards for products, services, and systems in Kenya. This includes ensuring that goods meet international quality standards, the WTO, and on the other hand, is an international organization that sets the global rules for trade between nations, that is including frameworks for product standards, trade regulations, and dispute resolutions. KEBS therefore aligns with WTO guidelines to facilitate smooth international trade and avoid trade barriers. In avoidance of trade barriers, we have to consider that our exporters are well informed in terms of what is going on in other WTO members. Then the WTO agreements on technical barriers to trade, this is what most of you might be aware that the Kenya Bureau of Standards is the secretariat and is the national inquiry point of the TBT agreement of the WTO. Now, one of the WTO agreements which Kenya is a signatory to and is responsible for implementing through Kenya Bureau of Standards deals with the regulations, standards, testing, and certification procedures that affect trade. KEBS follows the TBT agreement to ensure that Kenya's trade regulations are consistent with international norms and do not create unnecessary obstacles to international trade. Now, the cooperation aspect, KEBS as part of Kenya's trade and standards infrastructure often works with international organizations like the WTO to harmonize national standards with international standards. This helps Kenyan exports meet the necessary criteria for access to international markets, thus improving Kenya's competitiveness in global trade. The other aspect is on dispute resolution. If there are trade disputes related to standards or regulations, KEBS and the WTO can be involved in resolving such issues. For instance, if a country challenges Kenya's products under the WTO dispute settlement process, KEBS would be the key authority involved in defending the national standards. Now, how the WTO framework addresses export challenges. First of all, let's look at the tariff reduction through trade agreements. WTO multilateral trade agreements such as the GATT on tariff and trade, that is GATT, work to reduce tariffs globally. Though bilateral or regional negotiations under the WTO umbrella, countries can agree to lower tariffs on specific goods and services. Example, the Trade Facilitation Agreement, which aims to simplify custom procedures, reduces both the time and cost of exporting goods. A point in time, you can see in East Africa, we have one-stop border posts that facilitate faster clearance of goods, both for export and import. Now, role of the WTO in non-tariff barriers. Majorly, if you want to talk about the non-tariff, you have to consider issues concerning standards, technical regulations, and conformity assessment procedures, which KEBS is the key institution in Kenya. Now, the WTO provides a platform for discussions around harmonizing standards, especially in sectors like food, safety, pharmaceuticals, and textiles. The agreement on technical barriers to trade ensures that regulations and standards do not create unnecessary obstacles to trade. For example, a country may challenge overly stringent food safety standards that disappropriately affect their agricultural exports. 2. Trade facilitations and custom procedures. The Trade Facilitation Agreement helps simplify custom processes and reduce delays at borders, which are given an example of the East African Community case, where we have one-stop border posts. Then the agreement includes measures to expand customs procedures. A case study here that we can use is using the WTO to overcome export barriers. For example, country X and the WTO dispute settlement process. Now you'll see country X faced an anti-dumping measure imposed by country Y on their steel exports. Now, through the WTO dispute settlement process, country X used the same mechanism to challenge the measure. Now, on going forward through the same dispute settlement, after investigations, the WTO ruled in favor of country X, allowing them to resume steel exports to country Y without the unfair tariff charges. Now, benefits to exporters. It leads to reduced costs of exports, reduced access to foreign markets, that is improved, not reduced, improved access to foreign markets, protection against discriminatory trade practices that other countries can put in place. But remember, this simply applies majorly to the WTO members. This is a cross-membership trade. Strategies for exporters to maximize WTO framework. 1, engage in WTO negotiations. So countries that are WTO members, their private sectors, which I can say occasionally have issues, they bring them on board to their governments, which their governments negotiate on their behalf. So we can say that these countries that actively participate in WTO talks ensure that trade deals that benefit their sectors are well negotiated. Stay informed on ongoing trade negotiations and advocate for favorable terms for your exports. This comes in terms of when new regulations or new measures or technical regulations are being put across by other WTO members. Countries that keep abreast to new developments are well placed to negotiate on behalf of their exporters. Now, leverage the dispute resolution system. If a country is faced with unfair trade practices, exporters should be aware of the process for lodging disputes through the WTO. Generally, in simple terms, remember the private sector are not necessarily in a position to negotiate directly with the WTO members, but they can just use the process of using their national government to negotiate on their behalf. Ensure that trade policies are being enforced fairly and that non-tariff barriers are not hindering market access. for their exports. The third aspect is collaboration with governments and trade associations. Businesses should work closely with their governments and trade organizations to ensure that their interests are represented at the WTO. Participate in consultations and dialogue to address trade challenges. The importance of the framework. The WTO provides a powerful platform for overcoming the challenges faced by exporters, from tariff barriers to unfair trade practices. By leveraging the WTO resources, dispute resolution mechanism, and capacity building initiatives, businesses and governments can foster smooth international trade. Active engagement with WTO framework is crucial for creating a more predictable and accessible global trade environment. KEBS therefore aligns with the WTO standards and regulations to ensure that Kenya can participate in global trade effectively while also protecting its industries from unfair trade practices. Let's look at the questions.
Hello, Jared. Are we done?
Chair, just a minute, I'm looking at the questions.
Yes. Jared, because of time, I would request that we try and respond to them on the chat facility, and at the end we could give about a minute or so if the time is remaining, so that we could have some question and answer session. But at this moment, allow me to invite Esther Maina from Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency to make a very short presentation that will answer some of the questions that may have been posted on the chat. Esther, are you ready? We could pull down the presentation, Jared, and we can do that shortly. Hello, Jared, can you hear me? Hello, Jared. Thank you. Thank you, Jared. Esther Maina, are you ready? Hello, Esther, can you hear me? Yes. Yeah. As Esther gets ready, I would like to ask Jared, there was a question that you wanted to respond to. As Esther gets ready, you could respond to that question. Jared?
Yeah, is it the question on labeling and packaging? Chair, I'm not getting you. The volume is very low. Hello?
Hello?
Is
Hello?
the
Can you
question
hear me?
you are referring to on labeling and packaging
Yes.
requirement?
Yes.
Okay, let me respond on chat.
Yes. Okay.
So to continue, can you hear me? I can be heard. I'll just proceed from there. The current state of the Kenya horticulture, as far as market presence is concerned, Kenya is known for being one of the leading exporters of horticultural produce, from our avocados to our flowers, our vegetables and our fruits. But however, we lack strong brand recognition. We know we face intense competition, not only from our neighbors in the region and beyond in Africa, but also internationally. And apart from that, we are facing also a few challenges outside of competition. We have limited awareness and visibility in new markets and emerging markets, logistical challenges as far as transporting the goods and the commodities is concerned, especially for those that need temperature control, and lack of market readiness. Lack of market readiness, strong branding, digital presence, and non-tariff barriers. So the importance of market readiness for Kenyan exporters is quite key. One, because of compliance with international standards, as far as adherence to certifications like Global GAP, SMETA, Fair Trade, and Organic Standards. We also have meeting sanitary and phytosanitary measures, as has been explained by our colleagues from KEPHIS. Another importance when it comes to market readiness is understanding market requirements. So regular and thorough research of target markets and aligning products with consumer preferences is quite important when Kenyans are looking to leave the borders of this country with their products. Also, it's key to understand the importance of logistics and supply chain efficiency, which will help in ensuring timely delivery and maintaining product quality for goods that are expected by buyers and distributors internationally, as well as cold chain management, especially when it comes to perishable goods at the source. This is important because it enhances credibility and trust with international buyers, and it also reduces the risk of imperfections at borders. When it comes to branding, which is what we define as the sum of all feelings, thoughts, visual, and other memories, positive or negative when it comes to the target market of a product, it is important for branding, for exporters to brand their goods because it helps to differentiate in the market. We've talked about competition, and this is one way of standing out in a crowded market by creating a unique identity for your products. So beyond just the visual, beyond the logos and the packaging, even at the essence of the marketing of a product, branding is quite key. It also helps differentiation, helps with highlighting the quality and the authenticity of Kenyan products. Another importance of branding Kenyan goods is consumer trust. Building trust with consumers is done through branding when you do it consistently and you have it reliably done. We also have a brand association and affinity that is created for Kenyan products with positive values, especially in this day and age of EU deforestation regulations and the push for traceability. It's important to brand your products and create trust through sustainability, as well as incorporating innovation and culture, where this product is coming from. We know a good number of consumers are not quite sure where they source their products from, but once you brand and you do the storytelling at all touch points, you're able to bring this to mind. We also have branding, the importance coming out as market penetration. So when you brand your products, you get easier entry into new markets, especially when the brand is strong and it's recognizable. Branding also helps for you to negotiate better distribution deals and shelf space when it comes to retail. So benefits of branding Kenyan goods, we have increased sales and market share. As you know, well-branded products attract more customers and command premium prices. We also have brand loyalty that is created, which leads to repeat purchases and long-term customer relationships. They also have enhanced competitive advantage. So strong brands are less variable to the volatility in the market, especially when it comes to price. And branded goods are able to create brand dominance, especially in niche markets, and fend off new entrants. We know this because branding helps to create emotional affinity in the market, which gives a competitive advantage over those also in the same space. Lastly, as a benefit, we have support for the local economy. So successful brands can boost exports, which leads to the contribution of an increase of Kenya's GDP. And we also have the promotion of Kenyan culture and heritage, which enhances national pride beyond our borders. So common challenges faced with branding, one of them is the high cost, especially when it comes to branding, packaging and labeling of products. We know even when it comes to the boxes that are living with horticultural produce, many people choose to have the writings in black and white as opposed to color because there is a cost associated with that branding. But beyond just the high cost, we have the issue of cultural differences across different markets. There are some spaces where some colors are attributed to certain negative or have negative connotations, or some logos, symbols, or other markings may not quite translate when you enter such markets. So it should be something to look out for. Another thing is competition from established brands, especially for new entrants. It's quite a challenge and something that needs to be overcome when you are establishing yourself in a new market. A proposed solution would be to conduct a nation brand audit internally so that throughout the value chains for the horticultural produce we produce for export, we are able to gauge where we stand as far as branding is concerned so that we can be able to come up with a way forward, a strategy that we can implement for the benefit of our exporters in the country at large, which essentially is saying coming up with a collective approach to branding across our value chains so that we can leverage on the strength of the Kenyan brand. To continue, we have the mark of identity, mark that we use here at Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency, and that exporters can sign up for on our website at makeitkenya.go.ke. The mark of identity for Kenyan goods and services sets apart Kenyan products as authentic, unique, and of high quality in the global arena. The importance of harmonized and upscale digital presence. So you've done the branding, you've signed up for the mark, and now you are thinking of creating a digital presence, especially in this day and age, as you participate in the global arena. And we know the importance of having a digital presence is for visibility and also for the engagement of your consumers online. This can be done through websites, through social media, as well as e-commerce platforms, and so on and so forth. So the importance of digital presence is critical. One, it ensures a global reach. So exporters are able to connect to their buyers worldwide, and their market access is enhanced beyond just the traditional trade channels of physical moving of goods from one space to the other. We also know that it's cost effective. Digital platforms offer affordable ways to promote products as opposed to traditional methods of TV, radio, etc. above the line. This one is called through the line. Then there's targeted advertising, which you're able to do through search engine optimization and the like, which helps to reach specific audiences with your messaging about the horticultural produce. Then when it comes to consumer engagement, you're able to build relationship with consumers through interactive content. So you're able to have a business to consumer relationship, and you're able to showcase your product quality and brand story through visual methods and testimonials, through user-generated content, and so on and so forth. So thank you for your engagement. If you have any questions, feel free to share them for us to address. Asante.
Thank you very much, Esther, for that presentation. We are coming toward the conclusion of this webinar. And as we come to an end, I would like to request Paris Isaboke to give us a vote of thanks. I see a hand up by Smith Mbongo. Maybe just for that one hand that is up, we could just give him an opportunity to ask his question, and then we can conclude as we head toward a conclusion. Bwana Smith. Think that we cannot hear him. I want to believe that the questions we have endeavored to answer on the chat facility, but as we go forward, we shall also continue engaging. We shall look at the questions that have been shared. Those that may not have been answered satisfactorily, kindly reach out. And we shall also seek to send the presentations to all of us after this. And we will also share the questionnaire, which we would like to request that you could give us feedback on in that questionnaire and feedback form. We sincerely apologize for the technical hitch we had. I would like to ask Paris to give us a vote of thanks as we head towards the conclusion of this meeting. Paris? Kindly unmute yourself.
Thanks, Roderick. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay. So mine is a brief assignment just to appreciate everyone for being here. We have been monitoring the number of participants who have been with us. We have been ranging for around 70 participants. We really appreciate your patience from 9 o'clock till now, which is 11 o'clock. Also, our appreciation to KEBS and KEFIS, who have been able to work with us to ensure this webinar has been a success. Just to note that this will not be the last webinar we're going to have. We are going to pick up the pertinent issues that have been raised out of this webinar. And then we plan for another one in March. So look out for a notification of the same so that we're able to address the issue of interceptions as we look forward to increase our exports. To all our participants, asanteni sana. And before you leave, we'll really appreciate if you could fill in the survey link that has been shared. If there's an issue that you'd want us to address, kindly do so also in the questionnaire so that we will be able to address specifically. It depends if it will be for KEBS or KEFIS or KEPROBA. We will be glad to address any that can come up. So we really appreciate you. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. We have gone over by a minute, and apologies for that. And thank you once again. Have a good day.
Thank you, and bye-bye.